Hey guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube. I recently saw the movie Glass, and it was during this movie that suddenly I realized a very common theme, a common message. I call this imprinting, or even social engineering, predictive programming as well in some cases. And if you're familiar with my channel, you know that something we cover here a lot is the language of symbols and subliminal messages, hidden meanings. We're constantly picking up pieces to the bigger puzzle here and putting them in order together. And during this movie I noticed yet another trend, another hidden message if you will. When we were leaving the theater I noticed this movie poster here in the lobby, and I hadn't noticed this particular poster before. But it further solidified what I had seen in this movie and what I noticed as a common pattern in many other movies that are coming out lately, and also television shows as well. For many years I've been talking about the literal separation of the wheat and the tares, or the sheep and the goats, in our world around us. I've felt for many years that the veil is lifting. Everything's being exposed now. And I personally feel that people are choosing sides, whether they realize it or not. Over the years I've also detailed here on the channel the rise of demonic possession. It's interesting how we see this rise of demonic possession reflected in movies and television shows as well. There's been no shortage of that subject on our screens now for many years. And of course it's not just on the TV screens or just on the movie screens. We're seeing real-life examples all around the world of demonic possession. So we know that darkness is increasing. At the same time, we know that the light is increasing. This is a real spiritual battle taking place. So as I left the theater and I looked at this movie poster, it has begun. It really clicked for me. I've been saying this process started a while back. I find it interesting that we see it inside this movie as well. So I find it very interesting that this same theme is playing out in this movie, and also many other movies and TV shows, and we'll take a look at some of those. So you've seen this concept, we've all seen this concept, the idea of good and evil, a little devil on your shoulder or a little angel on your shoulder, and which one are you going to listen to? But more importantly, this has to do with what's within. What sides have we chosen? Are you a wheat or a tare? Are you a sheep or a goat? Jonathan Kleck is a friend of mine. He's also here on YouTube, and he describes this as a twin system that's manifested from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, with Cain and Abel being the prime example of this cannibalistic culture. So the fact is that there are two spirits battling for occupation within each one of us human beings. And the only way to be rectified and free from this system is through Christ. So all of these concepts are on full display in this film, Glass. They were also in the movie Split. This character right here is named Kevin Wendell Crumb. He suffers from an extreme case of dissociative identity disorder, and he has 23 separate personalities residing in his mind. His 24th personality is pretty much the bad guy of these movies, and it's called the Beast. And they don't try to hide this concept in any way. I mean, it's on full display. Now, they even talk about taking the light when discussing his different personalities. Some of them will take the light, which just means they're being good. Then others will turn to the beast, which means they're being bad. They even go one step further. I mean, the beast is obvious enough, right? The beast side of humanity, the evil side, the demonic side. So the beast itself actually resides within a collective inside of his mind, and he calls this the Horde. So now we have the horde of demons, the legion of demons. And we also find that connection with the rise of real demonic possession in our world all around us right now. So there's a sequence in Glass that'll probably make a lot more sense to you now. It's the scene where Kevin actually turns into the beast right in front of a bunch of homeless people. And he turns to the homeless people, stares at them for a second, and then he screams out, "I am you." Now remember that. That's important because we find that concept in some of these other films and TV shows that are pushing this same idea. Again, the separation of the wheat and the tares, or the sheep and the goats, or the twin system. So he's telling them, him as the beast, as the creature, is all of them, because the beast is inside of all of us. Again, that good and bad, or that light and dark inside of us all. And although this concept of this dark and evil within each one of us has been around since the beginning, just over the last few years we're seeing it manifest more and more in our entertainment. I'm sure many of you saw this movie Venom, once again all about that, about a darkness taking over humanity. So this really is a dualistic system in many different ways, one of which, of course, being the light and the dark within us all. And as I said, more and more of this is manifesting in a lot of our popular entertainment right now. But this isn't entirely something new. You can go back in time and see the same message being put out in all kinds of entertainment from the past. You can find this very system being exposed in many other forms of entertainment throughout the years, even going back in time a bit. This is from In Excess, the band, and of course the song was called The Devil Inside. Right here it says, "Here comes the woman with the look in her eye, raised on leather with flesh on her mind. Words as weapons, sharper than knives, makes you wonder how the other half die. Here comes the man with the look in his eye, fed on nothing but full of pride. Look at them go, look at them kick, makes you wonder how the other half live. Devil inside, every single one of us, the devil inside. Here comes the world with the look in its eye, future uncertain but certainly slight. Look at the faces, listen to the bells. It's hard to believe we need a place called hell." But it's also important for us to remember that it's a really dangerous oversimplification to believe that some people are innately good while others are innately evil or bad. It's a misleading concept and underpins the justice system of many countries. Bad, quote-unquote, people commit crimes, and since they're intrinsically bad, they should be locked away so that they can't harm us with their evil behavior. This concept has also fueled many wars and conflicts throughout history, and even in the present day. It makes groups believe that they are fighting a just cause against an evil enemy, and that once the evil people have been killed, peace and goodness will reign supreme. Human nature is infinitely more complex than this, of course. In human beings, good and evil are fluid in many ways. People can be a combination of good and bad qualities. Some people who behave cruelly and brutally can be rehabilitated and eventually display, quote, good qualities, such as empathy and kindness. And rather than being intrinsic, most cruel or brutal behavior is due to environmental factors for the most part, such as an abusive childhood or social learning from a family or peers. What do we really mean when we use those simplistic terms, good and evil? Good typically means a lack of self-centeredness. It means the ability to empathize with other people, to feel compassion for them, and to put their needs before your own. It means, if necessary, sacrificing your own well-being for the sake of others. It means benevolence, altruism, and selflessness, and self-sacrifice towards a greater cause, all qualities which stem from a sense of empathy. It means being able to see beyond the superficial difference of race, gender, or nationality and relate to a common human essence beneath them. So on the other hand, evil people are those who are unable to empathize with others. As a result, their own needs and desires are of paramount importance. They are selfish, self-absorbed, narcissistic. In fact, other people only have value for them to the extent that they can help them satisfy their own desires, or to which they can exploit them. This applies to the worst people of our world, of our societies. I would argue that their primary characteristics is an inability to empathize with others. They can't sense other people's emotions or their suffering. They can't see the world from other people's perspective, and so have no sense of their rights. Other human beings are just objects to them, which is what makes their brutality and cruelty so possible. So again, I just want to reiterate, I understand that's a basic kind of breakdown of, quote, good and evil. We could certainly make a much longer video on the differences between good and evil, but I wanted to give you the basic breakdown, because I do believe that people are choosing their sides, or those sides are manifesting through people more and more now. I also found it important to bring in the elements of narcissism and psychopathy. because these are common elements we find in so-called bad people or evil people. These are wicked characteristics. There's also a song from Eminem for the Venom movie, and here's some of the lyrics. Knock, knock, let the devil in, malevolent, as I've been, head is spinning, and this medicine screaming, la la la, let us in. But again, this goes back to the horde, the demon possession, legion. All of this happening now in real life, but also reflected in our entertainment. Again, this goes back to imprinting. If ever there was a celebrity that's completely sold out to the beast system, it's Eminem. And for many years, this has been reflected through his music and also through his music videos. Once these celebrities sell their souls to that Hollywood system, they are used. They become pawns of that system. They're used to shape society, societal norms. This is again back to predictive programming, social engineering, and imprinting. It's as I've said for years, we are literally dealing with Satanists, with witches, with warlocks, with people creating spells in movies and TV shows and in music. Remember this story from a few years back? Arizona man sang Eminem songs while stabbing family. He thought his wife was a demon, police say. An Arizona man told police he was possessed, and he sang Eminem songs while stabbing his family to death. Miller told detectives he visualized his wife as a demon. He said this just before stabbing her at 4 a.m. He sang lyrics to an Eminem song saying, "Here comes Satan, I'm the Antichrist, I'm going to kill you." Miller told police that when his children woke up to their mother's screams, he stabbed them too. He added that he stabbed his son the most because he loved him the most. Now this is a guy clearly under demonic possession, in my opinion, and through the spell of Eminem's songs. Miller calmly called the 911 dispatcher and told them he killed his family. The dispatcher asked him, "Are you sure you're not dreaming, Michael?" "I'm positive," he replied. Police say the 29-year-old stabbed his wife and 10-year-old daughter to death. His 4-year-old son Brian survived being stabbed 11 times. Eminem and all of these other, quote, Illuminati artists are literally tools of the devil, and they're enemies of humanity in that respect. Now, I certainly don't see this rise of narcissism along with this rise of possession as mutually exclusive. I see this rise of narcissism connected to this rise of demonic possession. So over the last few years, time and time again, we see more and more of these stories from different sources. Again, we see these dividing lines at play here. People are choosing their sides, whether they realize it or not. This rise in wickedness, this rise in selfishness, this rise of narcissism. And now, more and more of us are seeing it for what it really is. It's an epidemic. From attention-seeking celebrities to digital oversharing and the boom in cosmetic surgery, narcissistic behavior is all around us. So speaking of the connection between the rise of narcissism and this rise of demonic possession, I want to show you this clip. Check out what this university professor says about the rise of narcissism on his campus. And he really does describe it as a hive mind type mentality, and that's how I see this as well. I see this all as a demonic hive mind, and as he says in this clip, if you're not with them, you're against them, and they will attack you. They will come for you. Anyway, check this out.
Political correctness on college campuses has suddenly and sometimes loudly exploded onto the national stage.
You did not sleep at night. We're out. You're disgusting.
This confrontation at Yale was over the issue of PC Halloween costumes. At the University of Missouri, protests over perceived systematic racism forced the resignations of the school's president and chancellor. A reporter trying to cover one event was not welcome.
You need to get out.
I actually don't.
All right. Hey, who wants to help me get this reporter out of here?
Many now see the growing lack of reasoned discussion on college campuses as a disturbing trend. This blog post by the president of Oklahoma Wesleyan University, titled, "This is not a daycare, it's a university," hit a nerve. It's sharply critical of kids who are self-absorbed and narcissistic. Anytime their feelings are hurt, they are the victims.
What we really have today is a demand that you must be one of us, you must comply, you must submit. And if you don't, we will suppress you, we will silence you, and we will crush you.
And as I'd mentioned earlier, there are lots of films coming out here lately portraying this same theme, the dark and the light within. This film right here, Brightburn, is a perfect example of that. It's basically a retelling of the Superman story, even the Superman origin story. But in this case, Superman is evil. Now here's something interesting you can look into when we talk about the Superman story. There are many correlations between the story of Superman and the story of Jesus Christ. And I certainly don't think that's by accident. However, I've always seen the Superman story, especially the modern retelling of the Superman story, more in line with the story of the Antichrist. Many years ago, I even did some videos on this, on the symbolism with the new Superman movies and the Antichrist story. There's tons of occult symbolism in Superman. You can even go back to the original Superman movie from 1978, where Jor-El is the judge presiding over a trinity led by Zod. And Jor-El wears a black robe at one point with a pentagram symbol. It has a serpent inside of it. And this right here, he's wearing the white robe with the serpent inside of the pentagram. Most people assume that it's an S and that it stands for Superman, but it doesn't, and they allude to this in the movie. In the newest Superman movies, Superman actually addresses this. He says it's not an S, in my world it means hope. Even the newest logo has been updated, and again, this is something I covered many years ago in a video. But you can see they even drew in the wings on the S, like this is literally a sky serpent or a dragon. So the S is actually a dragon, connected back, of course, to the serpent. The Antichrist symbolism again. You have a serpent inside the pentagram, with an upside-down pyramid on the bottom. You can even look at the name of Jor-El, the father of Superman. It's a Hebrew name of Jor, or Hor, H-O-R, means flowing from God. And it was on Mount Hor, H-O-R, where Aaron had died. In the Hebrew language in the Old Testament, the meaning of El is the noun singular from the word of God, and Elohim is the plural version, quote, gods. The name Elohim, by the way, appears 33 times in the story of creation in the opening chapters of Genesis. In other videos, I've discussed the power of the 33 and why we see this coded in so many stories, and even modern-day news stories and movies and television shows. So even by that, if Superman truly represented the Christian Jesus, then he and his father's off-world names would not contain the name of the Jewish God, El, E-L. In addition, we wouldn't know his father's name because they would have alluded to the fact that Superman was born of a virgin, such as the Virgin Mary. But this Jewish Messiah does have a father named Jor-El, and as it said, I am the first and I am the last, and beside me there is no El, E-L. You can even look at one of the earlier Superman movies, and Jor-El, the father of Superman, takes a quote straight from St. John where he says, "Even though you've been raised as a human being, you're not one of them. They can be a great people, Kal-El. They wish to be. They only lack the light to show the way. For this reason above all, their capacity for good, I have sent them you, my only son." So if anything, this new film Brightburn, in my opinion, could very well be the most honest version of the, quote, Superman story. As with so many other stories and movies and TV shows in our culture, it all goes back to the Antichrist. It all goes back to the beast. But most times it's so subtle and most people don't have the eyes to see. So this is how we get programmed and imprinted by a lot of these ideas. And I just wanted to share this image. This is also from the commercial, and this is an image that the child drew of himself. And as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, he brings destruction. He brings chaos. You can see the little stick figure there falling in fire. So if you haven't heard about this movie, you will be soon. It's called Us, and it's coming out here in the next few months. It's from Jordan Peele, who is part of the comedy group Key and Peele. He also wrote and directed the movie Get Out last year. And this film is the perfect example of the point I'm trying to make. It's all about doppelgangers, or an evil you, or a double you. This film is literally about a family of four coming up against another family of four, which is them. It's themselves. This movie is literally about a family of four having to fight another family of four, which is essentially just their evil sides manifested. This movie is all about the true battle that each and every one of us, humans, deal with. It's that internal struggle between the good side of us and the dark side of us. And something else I wanted to cover, since we're covering this subject of the light and the dark within each and every one of us. There's a new documentary out about Ted Bundy, the famous serial killer. It's on Netflix right now. But it's interesting the way these synchronicities work. There's also a feature film coming out about Ted Bundy as well. And Ted Bundy really is the perfect, in my opinion, physical manifestation of this idea. On the outside, he was handsome, charismatic, very intelligent. People were drawn to him. But all of that was a cover for the true darkness that lies within. He was a ravenous wolf, a monster. He embraced the devil inside. And now that they're making a movie about Ted Bundy, and they're also doing this new documentary about Ted Bundy, we have stories like this, which really personify the very worst of humanity. Netflix wants you to stop calling Ted Bundy hot, and remember that he's a serial killer. Is it any wonder that this guy was able to coax dozens of beautiful young ladies into his car so that he could brutalize them? All of us are engaged in a spiritual battle, though millions of people don't even realize this is happening. There is a darkness within all of us. There is a devil within all of us. There's a darkness within humanity, inherently. And I believe, and many other people believe, the only way to fully battle that dark side and to truly turn to the light is through Jesus Christ. We need the Holy Spirit. We need a relationship with our Heavenly Father to fight this battle. Again, this is my opinion, and I hope it helps you. So until next time, stay aware out there. Take care. Thanks so much for watching my video, and I'll talk to you again real soon.